Hi everyone, welcome to Wigan Fan TV, episode 16. Wigan versus Wakefield preview tonight. You're stuck with myself and Mark from Super League Pod. Are you well, Mark?
Hello. I'm good, thank you. How are you, Sean?
Yeah, very good. How's Super League Pod going so far? First few episodes of the season?
Yeah, it's been decent. Slow going, getting people back into the habit of sending in the feedback on the games, but I think the
Okay.
lack of games last week, with all the League One games called off, half the Championship and a couple of Super League, probably
Yeah.
got in the way of a few people contributing. But it's great to be back doing the show after the short break we had. It's really good community that we have on the show, so I'm enjoying being back. And thanks for the mention.
No,
I
no
should
problem.
I should also mention that at the Warrington game, because I've not been on since then, I got
Yeah.
recognised for
Wow.
being on your show. Normally, people sort of look at me a bit quizzically when I'm talking to my uncle, thinking I know your voice from somewhere, but and then ask me if I do the podcast. But this time it was actually my face, which is a new one. It was a lady
I'm
called Jill who shared my hatred for Ryan Atkins and offered me an Uncle
all right.
Joe's, so it was great.
Perfect. I'm trying to keep a low profile at the moment. That's my aim. I don't want people to recognise me.
Mate, you were stood
So
outside the ground with a selfie stick on Friday night. How's people not going to recognise you?
and a microphone, yeah. I
Yeah.
won't be there on Sunday. I won't be there on Sunday, and that's one of the things that we're going to quickly mention is a way for people to give feedback and get their reactions is a new thing that we've got called the offload, which is basically a telephone and text service, which I'll sort of mention in a few moments' time. Obviously, I saw you briefly on Friday night. What did you make of the Widnes game? It was obviously it was very much a game of two halves, wasn't it?
Yeah, incredibly frustrating. First half, Widnes were a lot quicker around the ruck than we were, and they ran through their sets. We got to the end of our sets and wondered where we were on the field. But second half, everything changed, clicked into gear. Forwards were winning collision. Everyone was playing the ball fast. People jumping in, playing the ball, making the right decisions, and it just
Yeah.
looked a lot more fluid, didn't it? It was good to see as well. I mean, there's a lot of talk about which way we should go with who plays one, who plays seven, who plays six, who plays nine. It
Yeah.
it was good to see in this game that a different version of that worked really well compared to what had worked better probably before, because it just means we've got
Yeah.
so many options, and every one of those options has had at least half a game where they've been on song.
I mean, I don't know whether that happened by chance maybe on Friday with Escaré sort of rolling his ankle at one point. But I mean, you always felt, well, I always felt on Friday that if Wigan could get that try late in the first half, they were going to come back. There was a good chance that they were going to come back. My biggest concern was at 16-0 that in the early stages of the season, that can sometimes be a winning lead. And they'd obviously given that away quite early on. Who stood out for you from Wigan?
Well, I think Widnes thought that it was going to be a low-scoring game. They took all them penalties, those two
Yeah,
penalty goals, so that helped us in the end because we were good enough to not be low-scoring. I mean, both wingers were great. That pick up from
yeah,
Burgess from the penalty that didn't make touch was one of the most crucial moments in the game. Even though we didn't score on the next set, it kind of set the tone for us to
yeah,
to to force home the dominance. Davies was really good, really hard working. Farrell was decent apart from one defensive lapse in the first half.
yeah,
I thought Tompkins was great. Sam Tompkins was
yeah.
fantastic. No one played badly in the second half at all, really, did they? So
I mean,
those four were probably the most stood out.
the other Tompkins got a mention by Sean Wayne saying it's the best game he's played since he came back, and the fact that he didn't stand out probably says a lot about his form since he came back from rugby union. But I thought
They've
Willie
been all
Ison
right,
did
haven't
well
they,
off the
this
bench.
year? 10 minutes
Defensively, I
against
think
Wire.
he's improved.
Yeah, 10 minutes against Wire, he was a bit dodgy and got yanked off. But other than that, he was fine. He's been fine this year. Been quite surprised that I've not been shouting for him to get pulled off the pitch more.
You sent me a lot of stats earlier in the week, which I went through, and he's still high up on the stats for penalties that he's given away. He's still in the top 10, and I think he's always in the top 10. Him and O'Loughlin are normally there or thereabouts, but O'Loughlin's not in the top 10, I don't think, just yet.
He hasn't
Um,
made any errors yet, O'Loughlin, either, which is remarkable too.
yeah,
Handling
we
errors, at least.
obviously we move on to Wakefield on Sunday, second in the table, undefeated. On the season preview show that we did, I wrote them off straight away, and I think pretty much you might have done because I think you said, "What about Wakefield?" Because we forgot all about them, and all of a sudden, the second in the table. Are they the real deal?
This is going to be the first proper test that. I don't want to be patronising to Wakefield because they've won 4 games out of 4 and we haven't done that. But they've won 4 games and they've played the teams that are in the bottom 4 of the table. And they probably got a little bit lucky in the game against Salford that they won. But really, when it comes down to it, they've won 4 games in a row and they've looked good in 2, really good in 2 of those games. They are, along with us, the top 3 in tries scored and breaks made. They're making chances, they're taking chances. They're hardly any errors. Us and them, joint fewest in errors made this season per game. So that's pretty impressive from both sides. Don't expect a lot of errors on Sunday, but yeah. So they're playing well.
Lots of errors now, then.
Yeah, well, I've put the mockers on everyone, but yeah, they're playing well. So you can't like criticize them too much for their opponents they've faced. But this is the crunch for whether they are the real deal or not. I think. Do you agree?
Yeah, absolutely. I was looking at the fixtures. I was just I mean, these are the next 6 games. That's no disrespect to Widnes in there, but that is one hell of a run that Wakefield are going to go on, and that will define whether I think they're going to be a top 4 side or not. Come out of that with maybe winning more than 50%, and we've got to start looking at them as the real deal. But they've got Wigan this week, Widnes, Warrington, Castleford, Hull, Leeds, and Saints in the next 6 games. That's, bear in mind, that takes in the Easter period as well, which obviously squads get tested a lot during that Easter period. It'd be interesting to see after those 6 games where exactly they are, really.
Yeah, well, like us, they've not used a ton of players yet, so the squad will be tested. But yet they've had an easier front end to their first half of the season and back end to it, so it'll be interesting to see. But hey, they're going to be a tough team to play on Sunday.
They are, yeah. I mean, again, I don't think I've watched a single Wakefield game. Did they play? I think they were on telly against Catalans, maybe, were they?
Salford and Catalan games were on TV,
Salford, yeah. So I think that they're the only games that I've seen them in. I mean, this is, we'll just pull the team up from the weekend. I don't know whether we can try and zoom in on that. I mean, obviously, we're early this week in terms of coming on to the show because of the squads haven't been announced. If we were on tomorrow night, we would know what the squads would be. But do you expect Wakefield to line up any different to that game where they beat Huddersfield last week?
Well, one of the bonuses for us is Matty Ashurst is suspended for the game. Okay. So he got picked up a 1-match dangerous contact charge. So he's going to be missing the game, and he's probably been their best defender along with Tinarawa Rona this year. So missing one of those 2 does affect them defensively, you would think. And then whether Tom Johnson will be back in for Mason Caton-Brown. I mean, Tom Johnson's a bit better, but to be honest, Mason Caton-Brown goes at a try a game for him since he's been in at Wakefield. So, and whoever's on that left wing is going to score tries for them. Yeah.
I mean, it was interesting. You mentioned Tom Johnson there. I mean, he's obviously been this week. The England's development squad's been announced, and the night squad. Are you surprised to see Johnston put in there ahead of Joe Burgess, ahead of Tom Davis? Has he played much better than what Tom Davis has in the past 12 months?
I think
he's been injured.
He's got a better try scoring record over that period of time. He's got a little bit more in the money in the bank in terms of his had 3 seasons where he's been pretty good in the Super League. Now he's been injured quite a bit, so that's the knock on him. But whenever he's played, he's and he's top player in terms of breaks made this season, second in terms of meters per game. So he's well in form. Not that Davies isn't, but I think he deserves his place, and he would have been. I think he would have been on that plane to Australia last year if he hadn't got injured. His attacking prowesses are a little bit better, I'd say, than Tom Davies at this time. He's a better finisher.
Yeah, definitely. I would agree with that. I mean, do you think this game coming so soon after the elite development squad's been announced, do you think this puts a lot of pressure on Joe Burgess? He's a player that was an England international, didn't really do much for England 2 years ago, missed out on the World Cup last year after below average season for his standards, and now he's being rewarded. It's almost like a backhanded compliment that he's sort of been put in the night squad rather than the international, the main squad. Do you think we'll see a reaction from Burgess? I mean, how much can you react when you're?
I think we saw a reaction from him last week to the fact that he'd not been getting game time this season. I think he was outstanding He was probably our best player in the first half last week and kept going in the second half. So I think we've already seen that reaction. I don't think this squad announcements is necessarily going to change him. He seems quite a laid back bloke, so I don't think is even though he'll want to play for England and all of that, I don't think it's going to knock him too much. And we've seen people make the squads at the end of the year who haven't played in who haven't been in the squad at the start of the year. So I don't think he's going to play up to it, but anything to motivate him is a good thing, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. And like you say, that doesn't include the NRL players, obviously. So there's still plenty of room for people to come in there, including Sam Tompkins. I sort of tweeted earlier in the week mischievously to ask whether Sam Tompkins had any Irish heritage, because I think he's not played for England for so long now that he could play for one of the developing nations. So if he's got any Italian or Irish or Scottish in him, he could maybe turn out for them at the end of the year.
The two-tier system means he can pull a jersey on for those sides anyway and still play for England. Yeah. But I don't think he has, unfortunately. No. You'd think with that ginger beard, he's got a bit of Scottish or Irish in him somewhere.
You never know. He might just find an Irish relative somewhere along the line. One player on that Wakefield team, we'll sort of round up on Wakefield here, but the player that's probably the most impressive, from my point of view, has got to be Fafita. I mean, he is an absolute animal, and he seems to love his time at Wakefield. I think he probably could have moved. Again, no disrespect to Wakefield, they finished above us last year, but I think he could possibly have the choice of his Super League teams, probably get a contract back in the NRL if he wanted to. You look at tackle bust, in terms of the stats. Number one in the stats, Ben Barber with 32. Number two in the stats, Fafita with 27. He's going to be difficult for Wigan to control on Sunday, isn't he?
He's a huge impact player. You see the try he scored against Catalan. I mean, he ran through three blokes and got away from them, ran through another three blokes and put the ball down. So he's a real hard runner of the ball. He's got a great offload, and like you say, he's knocking people over all the time. So he's going to be a hard man to deal with. And the problem with him, and if you look at the other kind of prop forwards as well, because Hubie's a great offloader as well, they draw players into them in the middle, which is why their wingers are so prolific. That they're up there with our wingers. We don't necessarily think Johnston, Jones, Bishop, and Mason, Kate, and Brown are kind of the same level as our great wingers that we've got. But boy, the try scoring records are up there with our wingers from the last 2 years.
Yeah, and I think Ben Jones Bishop again has got one of the highest meter carries in the league, or certainly last year as well. He's certainly up there.
And Fafita is key to all that because he draws so many. He requires the focus of so many defenders. I mean, another player I'd talk about from Wakefield, I think he goes under the radar a lot, is Bill Tupu. Strong runner, great offloader, is doing a lot of the hard work for his forwards, and then he's making a lot of chances for his winger, and he's not making many mistakes. So, Fafita and Tupu are two kind of damaging runners that we need to watch out for.
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly a big challenge for Wigan. Looking at the Wigan side, again, obviously the squads haven't been announced yet, but we obviously know the side that faced Widnes at last Friday. I'll just try and zoom in on that one again. There's been a lot of talk over the past couple of weeks of Navarrete coming in the side. Pretty much the last 2 weeks, it's been Navarrete's close. How close does he actually have to be to get into that side? Do you think he'll get his opportunity on Sunday?
I'm going to say no, only on the basis that I want him to, and we've been saying he will do so often in the last month that if we say no, maybe we'll find the reverse happen. But no, it was reasonable for Swinton. I don't know if you caught that game on Premier Sports, but I watched that. It was reasonable for them in his carries and stuff, and he didn't seem to be making any blunders, which is a big thing for him defensively. Last year, maybe ran out of gas a bit faster than Wayne would want. So he hasn't seemed to be doing that as much in the games I've seen him play this year. So and he's got to get a chance at some point soon. So you'd think with the reserves fixture off as well this weekend again, that was that meant to be tonight, I think.
Against Halifax, I think, wasn't it?
Yeah. So I'd say all indications are he's gonna come to that, and I believe a couple of the forwards maybe have been not training every day this week.
I was going to mention that. I mean, there's certainly a comment somewhere today that Ben Flower has been missing with an illness, so it might be an opportunity that they actually take that as the opportunity for Navarrete to come in and not risk somebody like Flower. I can't remember the other player. It might have been Joel Tompkins. That was the other
I
player
think it
that
was
was
Joel
possibly not
Tompkins, but
training.
that would, change things up in a different way, I suppose. I don't know if then you might see Sutton in the back row and Navarrete getting a go, or Isa in the back row and Navarrete getting a go. That I do think he's probably going to be in the 19 again, and then I hope for his sake he's in the 17. Although he still could get a go at Swinton again. Should not
He
that
could,
bad.
and again, you look at the Wigan fixtures coming up. He's not running out of time, but the games that he can get the opportunity and probably the better environment, for a turn of phrase, is they're running out. We've got Castleford next week. We've got Saints in a few weeks' time, obviously on Good Friday. You can't imagine him being thrown in there unless there's injuries or suspensions if he hasn't played. We've obviously got Huddersfield at home. So you would say maybe the Wakefield and Huddersfield games at home, again, no disrespect to either of those as oppositions, they're the opportunity for people like Navarrete to take the chances. It'd be interesting to see whether he does finally get that opportunity on Sunday. I think there's a lot of people that want him to get that opportunity from impressing against South, really.
I suppose my question then would be, how much opportunity does he get? How much of a chance do you think, like, if he's really good, will he stay in? Or, if he's really bad, is that it?
Yeah. I mean, it's a tough one, and it's one of those things where having a big squad and not having a lot of injuries, touch wood, at this moment in time, actually plays in our favour, but can also take away opportunities. Liam Forsyth is somebody that we mention pretty much every week as the sort of missing man of Wigan at this moment in time. Where is he? He's nowhere near that centre position, and he's supposedly a specialist centre, and we've got Bateman playing there. Looking at that side, would you make any other changes to that side to Wigan? Bear in mind, I think later on last week, Bateman and Joel Tompkins did switch, didn't they, in attack and defence? I don't know whether it was you that I picked up on, mentioned that, or somebody else on Twitter. I didn't actually pick that up. But
there was a few plays where there was a few attacking passages where I noticed them had swapped around. I don't think I tweeted about it, but I think it happened, but I don't think it was necessarily a conscious tactical choice, more just the two players saying, let's swap it for a bit. I wouldn't change anything as it's going. I don't think there's any real need to. I know things weren't great in the first half last week, and I know things weren't great against Warrington, but in the first half last week, it wasn't for a want of making chances. It was just poor execution, and we sorted that out, and you'd think this week we'll have had a better week of training. And like I said at the opening, it went well with Sam Powell at 7 and Sam Tompkins at 1 last week, as well as the other opportunities, the other ways around we've had it. So until I feel like it's properly broken, I don't think it needs to be changed. That's kind of it's a bit of a boring response.
I mean, notably, I think today from a lot of the social media activity, it looks like training was actually cancelled today for Wigan due to the snow. So one less day on the pitch, maybe in terms of preparation for Wigan. Moving on to the game itself, it's obviously going to be, I think conditions potentially will play a part, as they always do. That the pitch at the DW held up pretty well last week, but I think that was probably more to do with the cold more than anything. It couldn't have any other effect on it. How do you see the game going? What are your thoughts on the game on Sunday? Where will it be won and lost, do you think?
Penalties might be a chance of what might just depend on who gets more chances than the other team. Wakefield have given away 2 more penalties a game than we've given away so far. We're one of the better ones, despite Joel Tompkins being on the pitch for almost 80 minutes every game. We're one of the better ones at that. And also, Chris Kendall's the referee. He's averaging 3 more penalties conceded by the away side than by the home side so far this year. So maybe we'll head to the penalty count, and that might give us a few more attacking opportunities. I think it's that close that might be the difference in terms of, because both teams are defending really well, both teams are attacking pretty well. It's going to be interesting. I think penalties and errors might be an important factor here. We can't waste chances against this Wakefield team though, because I don't think they'll give us as many chances as we got against Widnes.
Yeah, I think that's true. That's definitely the case. I think. I mean, again, going back to the stats that you sent through earlier in the week, you look at the assists, and Miller and Finn are sharing the assists out. Miller's obviously quite high up on there, but whereas Wigan, a lot of the assists, or the majority of the assists, are coming through George Williams, as you would expect. But their left and right edge are producing, if not the same amount of tries, an equal amount of tries, certainly. And it's going to be a threat, not just, I know Wigan scored tries on the right edge last week, but this Wigan left edge, it's very much a Wakefield left edge on the right edge in terms of the attack that they throw at teams.
Yeah, they seem to make up most of their meters down their left-hand side. But then that gives them an opportunity to spread the ball across the field. And with the big forwards they've got that are passing and offloading threats, it draws men in from the defence. So we need to watch out for that. Liam Finn's been playing really well this year without anyone ever getting a hand on him. So maybe, someone like a Willie Isa or even, Tony Clubb, someone like that could be targeted with give him a couple of whacks and see if that throws him off his game. Not to be too crass about it, and I don't want to see anything illegal out there on the field, but a couple of whacks, marginal ones, might actually help there. The wild card as well for for Wakefield, is Ryan Hampshire coming off the bench. He hasn't really contributed hugely from what I'm aware of, but he'll want to show up, won't he, on Sunday if he gets to fulfil that role.
He certainly enjoyed his try against Wigan, playing for Lee last year, his intercept try at the Lee Sports Village last year when he was down there, didn't he? So
don't remind me of that game.
He does seem to be a person that does enjoy, he does feel, I guess, like he's got a point to prove, because him and Williams were the sort of the golden duo, weren't they, coming through the ranks? And, there was lots of rumours of unrest with Hampshire in terms of he didn't see himself as a fullback. He saw himself as a halfback, and then all of a sudden he's out on loan at Castleford and Lee playing on the wing. And sometimes you've got to be careful what you wish for, I guess, is the story of Ryan Hampshire's career to date. I just noticed Matt's watching. Matt, we genuinely would have enjoyed you being on today. It wasn't that your impression of Dennis Betts upset a lot of people last week, but we were supposed to have a third person, and Matt was sitting out this week. Dan, who is a Wigan fan, but he plays for the Wakefield Trinity in the PDRL team, he unfortunately couldn't join us tonight. So I'm not just making this up, Matt, if you do watch this. We obviously do want you back on, and we're obviously going to miss your poem tonight. It wasn't your... I haven't got
a poem. I haven't got anything hidden down in my sort of waist region that seems to bring up every week. It wasn't the impression of Dennis Betts that threw me. It was where Dennis was sat in the room.
Yeah, that was interesting. I mean, tonight's show is definitely a U compared to the 18 that it normally is when Matt's on. In terms of the game on Sunday, I think we're both in agreement that it's probably going to be a tight affair. Who do you see winning? Let's get your score prediction and first try scorer, Mark.
I don't like tipping against us, so I'm going Wigan 26-22, staying consistent with the scoreline I picked on Super League Pod this week. I actually think Wakey might get the first try, but if it's Wigan, I think it's going to be John Bateman. I think he'll be running into that area around where Matty Ashurst would normally be protecting his halfback and his centre in defence, and so that might give us a chance. And he'll have... I just think the way that we ended the game in the second half last week, with what Sam was able to do, getting the ball quickly out wide, the fact that Bateman showed a passing threat, now that the other teams have to watch out for that, because they didn't have to watch out for that until 70 minutes had passed last week. So now he's got that chance to flip it back the other way. So I'm going John Bateman for me.
Okay, I'm going Wigan 18, Wakefield 10, keeping it close again. I'm going to go for Tom Davis, first try scorer, to celebrate his call up to the England Knights team. This week on Super League Pod, Mark, do you want to tell us a little bit about it? I think the headline is all about Liam Watts at this moment in time, I think. Yeah,
this week's show it is up, and with less games to talk about, and it was Alan Cale, who's a Bradford fan, who joined me on the show this week. We basically spent a lot of time talking about the two sendings off in the Hull against Warrington game. This week coming up on Monday's show, I'll be joined by a Hull FC fan. So lots of different views getting onto the show this year. And if everyone wants to send the match reviews in after the games, look out on our Twitter feed at Super League Pod. You'll see a link to a quick form where you can just throw down, a quick review of the action you've seen, and all of those are really appreciated, because that's what the show's really about. Everyone else's views, not so much
and it
me
is
having to fill in with mine.
It's basically 3 questions, isn't it? There's not a lot to it when you come to it in terms of
it's name, game, and opinion, yeah.
Yeah, and that
and
can
they all
be
get read out, no matter how ludicrous or offensive or whatever. We don't really have a filter on the Super League Pod. One thing I did want to mention, not to do with my show, but thanks for the plug, that's great, is the women's fixtures came out today. So I didn't know if that was on your little agenda, but I had it written down to pick up.
Yeah, I've got it. So at the top of my page here, I've got England squads and women fixtures, and I sort of haven't got to it. It's interesting. I think that the league that's in there, I think there's some fantastic teams in there, like Featherstone and York, which means that travelling fans that want to go and follow Wigan, the women's side from Wigan, are going to have the opportunity to maybe go to either, maybe not necessarily the grounds, but I imagine Featherstone and York will be playing at their actual grounds, whereas Wigan are going to be playing the majority of their home games at Orrell. So I think it gives us an opportunity as fans to perhaps go to places that we don't get to go, to celebrate, to watch the women's team. Obviously, it was people celebrating International Women's Day today, and that's why the fixtures were announced today. Wigan earlier in the week announcing the captain and vice captain, and in my ignorance, I'm coming into this completely fresh. I think a lot of people probably are. Yeah, it's going to be interesting. I think Sky have announced that they're going to be showing the games as well, which is fantastic for the sport as well. And they're going to be showing games, and I think they're going to be showing games on our league app as well. So the coverage of the women's game is going to get the attention that it deserves, and we'll certainly be following the women's team on here, and hopefully, I think with it being International Women's Day, it's probably right to point out that we have tried to get women on the show and to sort of, we don't want this to be an all-encompassing sort of male dominance. And Gail Featherstone, who watches sometimes and is high, I think, on the committee for the Riversiders, will join us at some point over the season as well. And hopefully
make sure she's wearing one of her famous running costumes when she comes on. She really dresses up for a Wigan.
Yeah, she does a lot of fundraising for Joining Jack and other such charities. So it'd be great to get somebody like Gail on. What are your opinions on it? I guess it's just good for the game, I think.
Yeah, well, our first game is a home game, isn't it? 15th of April, so got a bit of a wait, but it's against Fev, who were the runners-up. Sorry, my wife's just come over. I think we had a bit of a BBC News career expert moment here. Our first game's on the 15th of April, and it's a home game. So, and Fev were the runners-up last year to the Bradford Bulls ladies side. So, and the Thato Heath side that have become the St Helens side, they've been a really good women's rugby league side for a few years now, from just following results and the final scores of the grand finals and that sort of thing. So there's some really good established teams in there, and it'll be interesting to see how well we do in our first proper professional, semi-professional, professional outing against a great Fev side. That'll be good to see.
Yeah, I mean, I think Amanda Wilkinson, who's the Wigan coach, has been at Wigan for forever, really, in one role or another. And I think she's the highest qualified female coach in the country as well. So Wigan are certainly in good hands. Obviously signed a couple of England internationals as well, who are going to be the captain and vice captain for England, so for Wigan this year. So it'll be interesting to see how it goes. And I think everybody at the club will get behind them, because it's another branch to the club to support.
It's a great way to increase participation, get the more headlines, positive headlines around the sport, and all of those things.
Yeah, and I think one thing that came up when I was at the club a few weeks ago and talking about fan engagement, which hopefully there'll be something that the club announces over the next couple of weeks to increase fan participation within the club, which I'm hoping to be involved in, is the actual percentage of women that watch rugby. I think that it's something like 56% men, 44% women. Is quite a high ratio of women that actually attend Super League games. So hopefully it'll take off, and I think the coverage that it's getting is fantastic, and I think the league have done well so far. The last note that I'm going to sort of leave it on is this little offload thing that I mentioned. Now I'm going to put this onto the website later on. This is basically I'll put it onto the WiganRugbyFans.com later on. This is for people that want to vent the frustration in very much the way that you can do on the Google form for Mark Shaw and Super League Pod. I will share any of the messages that come through with Mark, so you could be featured on Wigan Fan TV and you can be featured on Super League Pod. The premise of it basically is there's a text number on there. After a game, just text your opinions through. You can be anonymous if you want. If you want to sort of say whatever you want, send it through. We'll get the text messages and feature them on these shows and make a quick video fan reaction after the games. There's also a telephone number on there, which I'll broadcast later on. That telephone number will go straight to basically what is a voicemail, and then we'll use the audio files and put those to videos. So it's just another string to the bow in terms of we want to get fan engagement, fan reaction. And I know that some people necessarily don't want to be on camera, and some people may want to stay anonymous in terms of their opinion. So that gives you the opportunity to do that, and that'll be on the website later on. So it's another. We'll see what the take up is on that, but consider it the 606 for Wigan fans is what I'm going for. Mark, thank you again for joining us tonight, and we'll certainly be listening into the Super League Pod, like you said, with a Hull FC fan next week, and I'm sure we'll speak in the week post Wakefield, pre Castleford. That's going to be an exciting week next week. So
I like the new logo you've got there as well that you've put up.
Yeah, I've not quite got it on this one yet, wherever that is. Because the frame basically is done beforehand. But yeah, I've changed the logo a little bit, trying to freshen things up. So, but yeah, any suggestions, send them through. And Mark, thank you very much. And let's hope that we get another victory and go and enjoy the game, which kicks off very shortly.
Yeah, thanks for having me on.
Cheers, Mark. See you later.